Would reforming political parties finally fix corruption in the Philippines? At first glance, it seems obvious. Stronger parties mean stronger accountability. But as with the anti-dynasty law, the story isn't so simple. So let's talk about the party system in the Philippines, or really, the lack of one. Unlike in many democracies, where political parties are vehicles for advancing political careers and programs, in the Philippines there are no stable ideology-based parties. Maybe there were decades ago, before the 1980s, but today, parties don't anchor political competition in any meaningful way. So how do people decide who to vote for? Two things. Number one, personality. With no ideological identification, voters look at politicians as individuals. That's why we talk about the personal vote. At the national level, this often reduces to name recall. No wonder the Senate is full of celebrities. Former actors and athletes like Manny Pacquiao win because people know their names. Others rely on regional bases, where hometown or provincial ties generate support. Number two, at the local level, it's private inducements. Without parties or platforms, voters fall back on clientelism. The political exchange is simple. If you give me something, cash, goods, favors, I'll vote for you. Brokers then organize blocks of voters at scale, enabling retail vote buying across communities. Now, what does this mean for the system as a whole? At the national level, Senate elections create incentives against party coordination. Remember, to win a seat, you just need to be among the top 12 vote-getters nationwide. That means your party mates are not allies, they're competitors. Every vote they gain could push you out of the top 12. So instead of building party cohesion, senators have incentives to build personal brands, even within the same party. At the House level, and in local races, the absence of strong parties leads to vote buying as the main strategy. Again, no one campaigns on platforms because voters don't align based on ideology. They align based on who's put something tangible in their hands. And because parties are so weak, they're also fluid. Every election, dozens, even hundreds of parties show up. They don't last, and they don't mean much. After the elections, they collapse into rainbow coalitions in Congress, realigned around whoever wins the presidency. That's why party switching, or turncoatism, is rampant. So the bottom line, weak parties mean politics is personal, transactional, and unstable. So what can we do? One promising proposal has been to reform the party system itself, to change the rules of the game. Scholars like Julio Tijanque and earlier advocates before him have long pushed for institutionalizing political parties. The idea is straightforward. Regulate party switching so politicians can't just jump opportunistically. Provide state subsidies so parties don't depend entirely on private donors. Set stricter registration rules and internal discipline standards so parties actually mean something. And create enforcement mechanisms so these rules stick. But what's the track record? Much like the anti-dynasty bill, proposals for party reform have been filed repeatedly since the 1990s. The Political Party Development Act, also called the Political Party Reform Bill, has been filed in multiple Congresses. At one point, it even passed the House on third reading, but it stalled in the Senate. Time and again, it's debated, filed, and then set aside. And again, the reason is familiar. Passing real party reform requires current politicians, who benefit from weak, fluid parties, to strengthen the very organizations that would constrain them. So should we expect them to pass that law? Probably not. But let's say they do. Suppose Congress passes party reform. Politicians are now required to join real parties. They can't just switch around anymore. And parties, in theory, are funded, disciplined, and programmatic. So on paper, this looks like a big change. But let's walk through the incentives. Number one, imagine you're running for the Senate. You're required to join a party, and you can't switch easily anymore. But the rules of the election haven't changed. You still just need to be among the top 12 vote-getters nationwide. That means your party mates are also your competitors. So even inside your own party, your incentive is still to build a personal vote, to stand out, to make sure your name has recall, to be the celebrity or regional heavyweight who climbs above the rest. Number two, think about local politics. Yes, parties might now be more organized, and politicians can't casually switch. But for voters, nothing has changed. They're still struggling with daily needs, and they still see the election as a moment to receive tangible goods. If your opponent is handing out cash, rice, or favors, what incentive do you or your party have to run purely on a platform? You'd almost be forced to match their strategy just to stay competitive. So what happens? Parties may look stronger on paper, but the underlying logic of elections remains the same. Politicians still win by cultivating personal votes at the national level and by engaging in clientelism at the local level. Voters still respond more to inducements than to platforms. and so the equilibrium doesn't fundamentally change. By now, it's probably clear to you, my dear viewer, that institutional reforms are certainly one of the most compelling ways to go, but they are so much harder than they appear in principle. The anti-political dynasty bill, the party system reform bills, they're well-intentioned, well-meaning. If we lived in an ideal world where politicians had no incentive to circumvent the rules just to stay in power, they might work. But in that world, we wouldn't need these bills in the first place. So really, the problem isn't solved. Where can we look next? In the next video, I'll start talking about another major proposal, electoral system reform. This idea, once championed by scholars like Paul Hutchcroft, gained momentum at one point, but eventually lost steam. We'll ask, could changing the very way votes are counted and seats are won make a difference?